Check out Dave Blaney in that 22 car. He's trying to get by Burton and Hardy and move into fourth.
Welcome to Good Runs. My name is Mex. In this continuing series, we're shining the spotlight on teams and drivers who had an elite run or breakout performance when it wasn't expected. And today, we're taking a look back at Dave Blaney in the 2006 Chevy Rock Roll 400. 2006 in a lot of ways was a transitional year. It was a transition of the old guard to the new. The year that seasoned veterans such as Jeff Gordon and Matt Kenseth saw themselves facing off against new talent. Rookie Denny Hamlin had been fantastic this year. Kyle Busch was having a great sophomore season, and Kevin Harvick, who had already been in the series a few years, was having his first true breakout season. And as we return to the chase in 2026, looking 20 years back, this was a prime example of a perfect race to get into the chase, entering the cutoff race. Not even the third driver in points was safe from falling to 11th and out of the picture with an early mechanical failure. But the most vulnerable were those at the bottom of the chase. Third-year Evernham driver Kasey Kahne was only 30 points out looking in, with Jeff Burton, Mark Martin, and Tony Stewart the most vulnerable to falling out. But just one mistake from any of these guys, Kevin Harvick to Kasey Kahne, and their chase hopes would be dashed. But as we know, and as I'm so privy of bringing up, this is not the only story on the track. This was a transitional year, the year Michael Waltrip began to miss races on qualifying speed after having a solid foundation for a long time. The year that Jamie McMurray moved to Roush from Ganassi and became the 5th Roush driver. The year drivers like Clint Boyer and Martin Truex Jr. were among the rookie field. The year Jeremy Mayfield began to break up with NASCAR in a notoriously messy separation. And the year Kurt Busch made his first team swap to Penske after a scandal in 2005. But not all transitions are happy. Some herald the end of a legacy or the end of an era. This would be longtime underdog Ken Schrader's final full-time season. Mark Martin had also announced his retirement from full-time racing for about the second time out of what would end up being about 9. This year also signaled the fall of many once competitive teams, including PPI Motorsports with the famed 32 Tide Ride, and a lot of once great drivers began to enter their sad washed era. Sterling Marlin, Joe Nemechek, Bobby Labonte, and Kyle Petty among those drivers. Fitting the bill for pretty much every transitional descriptor I've touched on here was the 22 Caterpillar Dodge for Bill Davis Racing. 43-year-old Dave Blaney from Hartford Township, Ohio. Despite some of his best finishes being later in his career, it's safe to say Dave Blaney's better days were behind him. Now, Blaney was winless in NASCAR at this point, but despite running generally for barely mid-pack teams at best, Blaney had found himself competing at a high level in Cup more than a few times, with multiple races between 2001 and 2003 being cited as races he should have won. Most notably the famed 2001 Cracker Barrel 500 where Dave's dominant car lost a wheel after a pit stop. Now, at first glance, you might just think of Dave Blaney as some nobody hick field filler with no serious racing cred. A host of pay drivers from today's day and age would like a word here, I'm sure. But Dave Blaney is a legend of dirt cars. His accolades beginning with his Rookie of the Year honors in the All-Star Sprint Circuit back in '83, then winning the USAC Silver Crown Championship in '84. In 1987, he won his first World of Outlaws race, then won the Chili Bowl Midget Nationals in 1993. And in 1997, he won the Gold Cup and the Knoxville Nationals, which earned him a serious berth into NASCAR.
And Dave Blaney, the sprint car race from Ohio.
Now, Blaney made 2 attempts at NASCAR in the Cup level in '92, running as a start and park in one and failing to qualify for the other. But his statistics in dirt were good enough to get him a ride in the Busch Series, driving the Bill Davis Amoco number 93. Now, Blaney's first Busch Series season was...
One car up in the wall. Dave Blaney, the sprint car driver, backs it in. Blaney's car has now come around to the pit lane as well. And see if they wave him into the pit or the garage.
Atrocious. Almost a 50% DNF rate in his 20 starts in 1998. In fact, 5 of his first 7 races that season are listed as a DNF due to accident. The other 2 races were a DNF due to an engine failure and a mediocre 14th place at Nashville.
You know we've not talked about, we'd better start doing so, is that 93 Amoco Ultimate car.
It. He is moving, buddy. He just went by McLaughlin, and he's up to... He's in 5th place.
5th now, yeah. Dave Blaney.
However, as the second part of the season ensued, Blaney seemed to improve, clicking off a few top 10s to close out the 1998 season. In 1999, Blaney returned to run full-time for Bill Davis in the Busch Series and ran a few select races in Cup. The Cup starts were nothing of note, just giving Blaney some seat time, but his Busch Series season showed significant improvement from his 1998 foray. 13 top 10s, 2 runner-ups, and a 7th place points finish. This was enough to give Blaney a full-time Cup ride in 2000. Now, Bill Davis as a team was a mixed bag throughout the 90s. Ward Burton seemed to be the only driver that could succeed with this organization on the Cup level. Even Jeff Gordon infamously left the team in the early 90s to see through an opportunity in Cup with Rick Hendrick. Throughout 2000, Dave Blaney was mostly invisible, failing to qualify for the second race of the year at Rockingham, but thankfully it would be his only DNQ of the season. That and a pair of top 10s at the very end of the season were pretty much the only upsides. It wasn't until 2001 that the Amoco 93 got its footing. Not great by any stretch, but better. 6 top 10s and a 22nd place points finish. And as mentioned earlier, was racing for the win in the Cracker Barrel 500 until a loose wheel mired his chances, setting up this legendary finish.
Gordon got loose, it's Harvick!
After a couple of seasons under his belt with Bill Davis, Blaney decided it was time to seek out other opportunities, moving to the 77 Jasper Ford for the 2002 season and the 2003 season. Well, Ford in 2003, except for the one race they ran as a Dodge because of their alliance with Penske. Either way, 2002 showed a lot more improvement for Blaney, with one less top 10 but an average finish of 20th, a top 20 points finish, and 18 top 20 finishes. 2003 was a tale of two seasons.
And Blaney's coming.
In the first third of the season, the 77 team notched 3 top 10s as well as Dave Blaney's first top 5 in Cup, where he famously finished third to the Kurt Busch and Ricky Craven battle in the most acclaimed finish in NASCAR history.
Here he comes.
Who's going to get off?
Here he comes. Here he comes. He's got him this time.
It's going to be a drag race. Wow! They touch!
Craven got him.
Dave Blaney had a knack for being a character in these kinds of finishes, you know? But then, not entirely sure what happened, but that Jasper team collapsed after Dover. 7 top 20s and 13 starts dropped to 4 over the next 23. Yeah, so as it turns out, when you have a partnership with an OEM, it's not very wise to field a competing OEM in a race. Now, you can argue that OEMs meddle a little too much in the natural conclusions of races, and big money has way too much influence to the detriment of the fan experience, especially in recent years. But this one, I'm kind of on the OEM side. This was kind of a dumb move. But here's the problem with using this as an excuse. Jasper's problem started 15 races ago at Dover at the beginning of June with a sudden significant downturn in overall performance and speed. Talladega was in October, so there was probably some other stuff going on well before this. But yeah, this OEM drama certainly didn't help, and it led to the end of the Jasper 77. Now, the 77 would not field Dave Blaney in 04, as it would be fielded as a Penske Dodge for rookie Brendan Gaughan, who came to the team with financial backing from his family's South Point brand, shuffling Blaney to whatever rides were open for the 2004 season. In 2004, Blaney ran 6 races in a second car for Bill Davis, notching 4 top 20 finishes for that team, and the remainder of the time was spent as a journeyman, being the last man to field the Ultra Motorsports number 7 car as an independent entry at Richmond, before being listed as a withdraw from their final attempt at Dover. And also making a handful of starts for Richard Childress in the 30 car, as well as starting a race for Carl Edwards driving for Jack Roush. His runs for these teams weren't outstanding, but Richard decided to give him a shot and signed Blaney for the 2005 season to drive the newly renumbered number 07 by request of sponsor Jack Daniels. So it was Blaney's shot at the big leagues. In his age 42 season, it would be his chance to shine. And it would go...
Oh, Blaney! No, right into Schrader.
Car just gets to moving around on him quite a bit going down into turn one. You see the back end kind of hop a little bit.
Pretty dang bad. In fact, at this point, the only driver you could argue was worse in a full season for RCR was Mike Skinner in 97, but at least Skinner stuck around to redeem himself as a respectable driver, and Skinner was technically a rookie that year. This was Blaney's 6th season in Cup. At this point, Blaney certainly realized there were truly no greener pastures than his own turf, and for the 06 season, Dave Blaney would return to Bill Davis once again, and with Scott Wimmer underperforming and being released from Bill's flagship number 22 Caterpillar Dodge, an opening for Dave Blaney to run full-time presented itself. But at age 43, it's safe to say Dave's expectations should have been tempered.
Big crash, turn 2.
Dave Blaney in the 22.
Crash.
One car is not a big crash here.
Blaney did about as well as you'd expect, running mostly in the 20s and notching off occasional top 15s, but never really being a factor up front. And this is what makes his run in the 2006 Chevy Rock Roll 400 so remarkable and unexpected. His best finish in 2006 entering this race was 13th at Loudon. He was barely holding on to a top 30 points position, This looked like the beginning of the end for Bill Davis Racing and Blaney's career. Dave Blaney rolled off 15th, but it was rookie Denny Hamlin that would lead them to the green flag.
Green flag is out on TNT.
Tony Stewart would start the race as the odd man out of the 10-man chase with his 40th starting spot in a backup car. By lap 11, Blaney is shown having moved up to the 13th spot. On lap 20, Kevin Harvick runs down and passes Denny Hamlin for the lead. First caution is drawn on lap 34 when Sterling Marlin spins out of turn 4 off of the bumper of Tony Stewart. Kevin Harvick wins the race off of pit road to the dismay of Gordon and Hamlin, who both have a little trouble on their stop. Jimmy Johnson did not pit and leads the field back to the lap 40 restart. Kevin Harvick makes it look easy, passing Jimmy Johnson for the lead, then getting passed only a lap later by teammate Jeff Burton. On lap 54, Dave Blaney is shown on screen for the first time, battling with Kasey Kahne for the 10th spot. But I'm going to be frank, this one was a little hard to cover because you would never know Blaney existed in this race had I not said something. Of all the mid-aught TNT broadcasts I've watched, this one is the worst. The only guys you'd ever know existed in this race were the 11 guys in contention for the chase, unless it was somebody wrecking. Nobody else mattered. No other drivers were important. The chase was everything. Kind of on brand for NASCAR at the time, and not too dissimilar from what we saw this year with NBC. But with the reintroduction of the chase coming this year, I can only hope this kind of coverage is not what we go back to. If 25th in points is like running 7th at the cutoff race, they better talk about them on the broadcast or I'm going to crash out. Burton lets Harvick by for the lead on lap 67. Tony Stewart is covered, having not worked his way through the field too much, only barely running top 30 after over 70 laps, and sits only a quarter lap or so away from going a lap down. Then TNT goes to another commercial break after only showing 5 green flag laps. After commercial, the caution is drawn quickly when Carl Edwards washes up into Jimmy Johnson. Johnson gets away mostly unscathed, while Carl Edwards receives some left side damage. Matt Kenseth wins the race off of pit road, beating Kevin Harvick, who was blocked in his pit box by the car in front of him. The broadcast then goes to commercial again. TNT misses the lap 87 restart after broadcasting only 7 green flag laps of competition since lap 58. Dave Blaney restarted 11th, Matt Kenseth restarted in the lead. The chase ticker after the restart shows Kahne out and Stewart in. On lap 95, Benny Parsons shouts out Dave Blaney, who is now battling with Kasey Kahne, Jeff Gordon, and Clint Boyer for 8th.
I'll tell you what, that Dave Blaney in the 22 car has an excellent run going tonight. Every time you look up, he's right in the lead pack.
Blaney is then shown clearing Gordon for a spot in the top 10. Matt Kenseth continues to lead on lap 120 as Martin Truex Jr. brushes the wall in turn 3, drawing the second yellow flag of the race. With 2 cars having retired from the race and Kevin Harvick having led a lap for 5 points, Harvick becomes the 3rd driver to lock into the chase behind Matt Kenseth and Jimmy Johnson.
Are officially out of the race, and Kevin Harvick has clinched a spot in the chase for the next Next Cup championship here in 2006.
Kyle Busch beats Matt Kenseth off of pit road and leads them back for the lap 126 restart. Only 3 laps later, Martin Truex Jr. finishes off his Chevrolet with another trip into the wall in turn 1. Kyle Busch takes the next restart on lap 138, with Dave Blaney restarting 9th. Kevin Harvick takes second from Matt Kenseth and begins to run down Kyle Busch, reassuming the lead on lap 143. Dave Blaney gets another shout out on lap 145, battling for 8th with Kasey Kahne and 7th with Mark Martin.
There's that 22 again, BP. Dave Blaney. He had a good run last night in the Busch race.
He is then covered by the booth more in depth on lap 148.
Hey, Alan.
Hey, Bill.
How about Dave Blaney?
Yeah, I was just asking to talk about him for a second because he is having a great run. Blaney and this team have struggled this season. Their best finish all year at 13th up in New Hampshire in this very chassis. Blaney right now in the top 10. He's been running in the top group all night long. He started 15th, Bill. And here's a group the whole team could really use a top finish.
Had a 7th place finish in the Busch race last night and a very strong car and a good effort out of Blaney.
Kyle Busch takes the high line and uses the 61 of Chad Chaffin as a pick to retake the lead on lap 155. On lap 173, the bubble cutoff shifts to exclude Mark Martin, both Kahne and Stewart listed as in. Blaney is shown running 8th on the lap 176 ticker. Kasey Kahne clears Kevin Harvick for 2nd on lap 192, then Hamlin follows suit on lap 195, while Kyle Busch continues to lead.
Caution is out, debris in turn 3.
The caution displays for debris on lap 221. Dave Blaney runs 6th, then this happens.
In the 11th spot, you're watching NASCAR on TNT. So we wait for the field to line up behind the pace car, and the lights have gone out, so we'll just stay here for the restart.
Kyle Busch continues to dominate, leading at the lap 229 restart, clearing the 41.9 immediately and stretching it out to over a second lead. Dave Blaney gets his final shout out on lap 240 with 160 to go. I swear y'all, this coverage was awful.
Check out Dave Blaney in that 22 car. He's trying to get by Burton and Hardy and move into fourth.
It's fourth, fifth, and sixth right there. Harvick, Burton, and Blaney.
Jeff Green gets spun out of turn 2 on lap 253, drawing the 6th yellow of the evening. This happened through a through the field segment, cutting off right before reaching Blaney. Ken Schrader did not pit and led the field back to the lap 262 restart. Kyle Busch took the lead from Schrader on lap 266. With 100 to go, Stewart is the odd man out of the chase once again. With 89 to go, Tony Stewart is shown a lap down. Jimmy Johnson spins without hitting the wall for the second time, amazingly. And after righting his car, Jeff Green punts him in retaliation for the contact earlier. The result of this is the 66 would actually be parked for the remainder of the race. Kyle Busch leads them to the final restart on lap 334, and TNT again misses it. Kevin Harvick works Kyle Busch over pretty fast though, but it wouldn't last long as Kyle Busch is able to retake the lead on lap 341. Dave Blaney now runs fourth, with Ken Schrader also having a good run, now solidly in the top 10 as well, though the pair would receive zero broadcast coverage for the remainder of the race, including post-race. The focus in the last 120 laps being exclusively related to the chase. The chase bubble remains 16 to the good for Kane, with Stewart out. The top 5 holds stay as the laps click down. Kevin Harvick keeping Kyle Busch in his sights, battling with him multiple times but unable to complete the pass. Battling 2 laps down with Jeff Gordon, Joe Nemechek makes a wild save with 14 laps to go. With 4 to go, the battle for the lead heats up, Harvick getting to the inside of turn 3 and taking the white flag out front. Kevin Harvick holds off the charge of Kyle Busch to win at which track?
Harvick off of 4. Harvick sweeps at Bristol. At Richmond.
Bill, are you okay? Are you doing your impression of Harold Klott after Avis? Do you know where you are? And you wouldn't know it if you watched this race, but Dave Blaney finished 4th. It was the second of his 4 career top 5s. The other 2 would come at restrictor plate tracks. Of note, Ken Schrader's pit strategy led him to a 7th place run, one of only 2 top 10s of his entire 2006 season, and the 184th and final of his career. So I vividly remember a detail after this race. The NASCAR.com Power Rankings had a segment on Blaney, and that segment read, "I can see the broadcast now if Dave Blaney won this race." And Dave Blaney takes the checkered flag. Now let's go down to pit road where Matt Yoakum has caught up with 17th place Dale Earnhardt Jr. However, just weeks after this event, Dave Blaney would get his just desserts, claiming his first Busch Series race in one of the most bizarre races I've ever watched at Charlotte. Then would be tapped to field a full-time entry in 2007 for the team, but was ultimately unable to repeat the Charlotte performance and decided to focus on his struggling Cup efforts once he realized he was out of the title hunt. Blaney would finish out his competitive career with a handful of top 10s running for Bill Davis, the team switching to Toyota in 2007, but ultimately failing to get a handle on the new car of tomorrow. Bill Davis sold off assets and closed up after a dismal showing in 2008 that saw only 2 top 10s and a 27.5 average finish with Blaney. Dave Blaney would go on to become a journeyman for a short period of time for some small teams, including Phil Parsons Racing as well as Tommy Baldwin Racing, where he finished 3rd in 2011 at Talladega to the famous Burton v. Boyer finish, and then nearly lucked into winning the 2012 Daytona 500 by being the car out front when Juan Pablo Montoya crashed into a jet dryer, damaging the track and threatening ending the race early. Ultimately, the race did restart, though, taking the win away from Dave Blaney. Dave's final NASCAR start came in the 2013 Midsummer Classic in the Truck Series, a dirt race in Eldora. Blaney drove for Brad Keselowski and wheeled the 19 truck to a 9th place effort. Following Dave's retirement, his son Ryan quickly rose to become one of the top drivers in the sport, showing the fastest speed in the Penske 12 on any given season, and he also won the 2023 NASCAR Cup Series Championship. In the transitional period where NASCAR had the largest audience it ever had, a passing of the torch from the old guard to the new was shown in many forms, and in the background was the end of underdog Dave Blaney's competitive career. Though it would never be backed up by any lasting or meaningful success, one last hurrah from a struggling team and an underdog driver was showcased under the Richmond lights and Dave Blaney earned himself a good run. Thank you guys for tuning in to watch this little racing story. I can't guarantee that everybody is going to stay for my outro, of course, because it can be a little verbose and repetitive, but hey, my Patreon link is in the description. So is my Ko-fi and PayPal if you can't afford to do a monthly subscription. I totally get it. However, if you do the monthly subscription, either here on YouTube or over on Patreon, you get to see these videos a couple days early. You'll also get access to behind the scenes updates, maybe some outtakes, access to a private Discord and Telegram server, and maybe you'll get a chance to influence my next coming videos as well, which, you know what, I think that's a pretty good deal if you ask me, but you're the one I'm trying to sell, I'm the one making the videos. But if you cannot provide any monetary help to this channel, I completely understand. The economy sucks right now, I totally get it. Just feel free to like, share, and subscribe for more cool videos, NASCAR and otherwise, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye. Take it wheezy.